The winter of 1943 in the outskirts of OREL was defined by extreme temperatures and a pervasive sense of hopelessness. Karl HOFMAN, a corporal in the Wehrmacht, sat within a frozen fortification, staring at his own numb limbs. In the breast pocket of his greatcoat lay a letter from his mother in Munich, filled with glowing praise for some great mission. However, the surrounding reality, endless snow-covered expanses and the stench of burnt diesel, suggested quite the opposite. Karl was no embodiment of propaganda slogans. Before the war, he had been a watchmaker who loved jazz and dreamed of designing monumental bridges. The illusory concept of his purpose finally shattered when his unit entered a small village. The atrocities he witnessed there, committed by special punitive squads, triggered a tectonic shift within him, one far more devastating than the blast of any artillery shell. He came to the final realization that he was merely a tool in a destructive mechanism that consumed all life without distinction. His fateful transformation culminated in the spring of 1944 when Karl was redeployed to occupied France. While this assignment was considered relatively safe compared to the Eastern Front, his internal alienation continued to grow. The Allied landings in Normandy served as the catalyst, providing a long-awaited opportunity for radical change. While patrolling a wooded area near St. Lo, Karl's group came under heavy fire, leaving him isolated from his unit. In the thick of the forest, he encountered an American sergeant with a steady gaze and visible nerves. Karl slowly lowered his service weapon, signaling his lack of hostile intent. In broken English, he uttered a phrase of surrender, declaring a categorical refusal to engage in further bloodshed. The American soldier, named Sam, refrained from using force, marking the first instance of normal human interaction Karl had experienced in years of armed conflict. Karl's time in the prisoner of war camp was not spent in passive waiting. He volunteered to assist medical personnel and provided linguistic support during interrogations, striving to be of use to those he had once officially considered enemies. Viewing photographs of the aftermath of the concentration camps filled him with profound grief and repentance. He realized that his side had not only suffered a strategic defeat, but had completely forfeited its moral right to exist within a civilized world. By 1946, HOFMAN found himself back in a semi-ruined Munich, where the landscape of his childhood had been transformed into heaps of rubble and twisted metal. Karl found work as a translator for the American military administration, helping to systematize archives and restore critical urban infrastructure. One day, Sam, who was still serving in the Quartermaster Corps in Germany, tracked Karl down. Noting HOFMAN's exceptional technical skills and undeniable integrity, the American remarked that the process of rebuilding normal life in Europe would take decades. Sam offered his sponsorship at a relative's workshop in Pennsylvania. Karl harbored serious doubts about whether American society was ready to accept a former enemy. But Sam assured him that in the United States, constructive personal qualities took priority over past citizenship. In 1949, Karl HOFMAN stepped ashore in the port of New York with minimal funds and a basic vocabulary, but carrying an official visa obtained through the Sam family's sponsorship. His initial period in Pittsburgh was marked by numerous hardships. His distinct accent immediately betrayed his origins, eliciting wariness and coldness from the local population. Nevertheless, Karl accepted this treatment as inevitable compensation for past mistakes. He dedicated 14 hours a day to his work, maintaining heavy transport vehicles in an industrial workshop. His drive for normalcy manifested in his exceptional precision, faultless work ethic, and selfless help to those around him. HOFMAN passionately studied the constitutional foundations of his new home, admiring the principles of personal liberty and the sanctity of human rights, concepts that had been strictly forbidden in his former life. By the early 1960s, Karl had fully integrated into the American environment. Changing his name to Charles, he married Ellen, a nurse who appreciated his steady character and exceptional reliability. They had 2 sons, and Charles eventually founded his own business specializing in the precision repair of automotive machinery. He categorically refused to display his military decorations. The Iron Cross he received in 1942 had been discarded during his transatlantic crossing. Charles considered the greatest achievement of his life to be the ability to wake up every day without fear, and the knowledge that his children were growing up in a democratic society where individuality is valued above any state ideology. One evening, sitting on the porch of his home in the Pittsburgh suburbs, Charles watched his sons play sports. His old friend Sam, who had stopped by, remarked that the war seemed like events from a parallel reality. Charles agreed, emphasizing that he had made the right choice, albeit somewhat late. He concluded that what truly matters is not the starting point of one's journey, but the final destination and the humanity reclaimed along the way. HOFMAN had ceased to be an instrument of imperial ambition, transforming into a decent citizen and a loving family man, which became his ultimate and most significant victory.